racism, we also hold the answer for this country that is so divided right now. There's a way to come together, not despite our differences, but by embracing our differences. That's what's made El Paso so special. You've been very clear that you believe the president, in large part, is to blame for what happened over the weekend here in El Paso. How worried are you that with Donald Trump still in the Oval Office, something like this will inevitably happen again? It will happen again because what happened in El Paso is not an isolated incident. After the president warned of caravans, you had somebody go into the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, warning of caravans. You had the mosque in Victoria, Texas, burned to the ground on the day that Trump signed his executive order seeking to ban Muslim travel to the United States. So there are very real consequences to his words, to his tweets, to the racism that he fans. You saw this in May at a rally in Florida. People meeting these immigrants from coming to this country. Someone yells out, shooting. The crowd supports our
Beena. I shall be there. One moment. I'm here somewhere. I think you can see my hand.
Oh, yes, I can.
I'm just organizing some. I was in the process of sending the email for this evening, so I just want to finish that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for letting me just communicate here.
Beena. It's not a matter of me letting you. It's a matter of me wanting. So please understand that whenever you want to, just connect, and I'm happy to chat to you. Otherwise, I feel like I'm bothering you. But you know, so switch it around. I want you to connect to me anytime, as much as you want. I'll chat to you every day if you want to. Truly, I love it. It's my joy in life. So
Thank you so much. It will be a brief one because it's already too late here in Pakistan. It's almost 2 o'clock. So
yes, that's why I was wondering about the time a bit.
Yeah, but the situation is kind of weird for me. I was doing something. I was doing a project like I don't know how, but somehow it happened with me that I am doing counseling for my friends. I don't know what they get from me, but somehow it is happening. Like for more than 8 months now. So one of my friend was in need, and she asked me to help her. So I was doing that for her. So I have to give her time, a lot of time, a lot of energies. And,
So I'm not following you. You're helping your friends, but I'm hearing a but I'm not hearing the but. You see what I mean? There's a but there somewhere, but it's not being expressed. Yes.
Yes, I am. I was helping my friend. I said that somehow I became their counselor. I don't know how, but they asked me for help. Like every now and then, when they feel stuck or they feel confused or depressed in some situation in their personal lives, so they call me as a as a counselor. I don't know how, but they feel that somehow I help them. So 2 of my friends were in that situation.
Sorry, 2 of your friends were what? There was some noise I couldn't hear.
Yes, they were in some terrible situation in their personal life.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I was busy in my own life, but a lot of things are happening.
Yeah.
Life is kind of chaotic.
Right. Right.
But still,
All right.
I'm just. In the beginning, I was saying, "Oh God, how could I survive this time?" But now I'm saying that somehow I survived, and now successfully, and now I'm a bit in control.
All right. So a couple of very big points that come up for me. First of all, you did survive, right?
Yes.
All right. So now, next time you get into a situation where you feel a bit overwhelmed, please remember this situation where you said, you know what, I was kind of in a situation and I survived, right?
Okay.
Which means that you can survive.
Okay. Yes.
Right. Okay, so if ever some situation comes up where there's some potential question about stress or bother, whatever, then you have no more excuse to get all stressed and bothered, and put out and overwhelmed. Why? Because you know you can survive.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
in other words, if you're going to get all stressed and bothered and discombobulated and get out of whack or whatever, that's just indulgence, then, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Isn't it? I mean,
Yes.
because
Yes.
it's just bullshit. I'm sorry. I'm kind of being a bit harsh, a little bit, right? I don't mean to be harsh, but I was responding to a post, and somebody was basically
Yes. They're arguing about
they aggravate the
gun laws
problem
and
with
all.
their response. So we have to take responsibility, is what I'm saying.
I saw that you post about gun laws
About
in
this mass
America.
shootings, right? And
Yes,
and
and
and the
someone
person
was
says wrong, and what they do, Bina, what that is, what the problem there is, it's that they don't want to face the awful truth. So the guy says wrong. Wrong in what? There's absolutely what I'm saying. It's all fact, not my opinion. There's nothing wrong about it at all. But what he's doing is he's saying it's all wrong. He doesn't specify what exactly is wrong, right? In doing
yeah.
that, I'm using this as an example of what you're talking about, and the same logic, you and your friends and everything, right? Same underlying logic. All right. So so him saying wrong, he's saying it's all wrong, which means everything I wrote, all that's meaningless. It doesn't mean, it's like, okay, just ignore, just disregard. Somebody else seeing his comments say, oh, okay, it was kind of a lot for me to take in. Okay, it's all wrong. All right, never mind, it's not an issue. So he writes off everything. Meanwhile, there's absolutely nothing wrong there. It's all fact. I'm not expressing any opinion. But he says that because he doesn't want to face the awful truth. He doesn't want to deal with what's really, really going on, which means is that this is an absolute absurd situation. And it means that I'm pointing out that absurdity, which means he didn't see it. He hasn't connected to that absurdity, which means he's been fooled by the absurdity and he's an idiot. And that's his thinking. See what I mean? Because he
Oh,
didn't see the problem. Now he can't acknowledge the problem, because then he'd be acknowledging that, well, he's a jackass.
oh
You see?
yes, that vulnerability is really
Precisely.
awkward.
It's an
Awkward.
ego issue, in other words.
Yes, 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 it happens because even with me, yes, I can say it like honestly. So many times after starting this impeccability course, I feel vulnerable. I was like, oh my God, how can I do this? Because it makes me so open. It makes me aware of my own ego issues, own
Exactly.
lack of confidence
Right.
issues, lack of trust issues,
Right.
and thing makes me feel vulnerable. And it was not a pleasant feeling. Sorry, it was not a pleasant
Right.
feeling at all. I was
Right.
feeling like,
Right. Yeah. Ego's a bitch. Sorry.
yes, yes, but it also feels you like feel. I don't know the proper word for that, but it is somehow gives you a shield, a shield of protection because we are
Correct.
used to.
Correct. It's comforting. Ego is
Yes,
comforting. That's the word you're
not
looking
only
for. Yes.
comforting but also makes us feel safe. Okay,
Exactly. That's the comfort. It's protective and securing. Right. Exactly.
protective, yes, and
Right.
securing. And once you feel that, okay, now you have to give up all these shields
Right.
ego was providing you. You
Right.
feel vulnerable. You feel, oh my God,
Right.
anyone can hurt me. Anyone, the people will see the real me. I will see myself,
Right.
the real one,
Right.
and
Right.
it is not good. Not good feeling. I'm not
Right.
saying it is not good.
However, there's a big however. I was just busy working on that in the self trust course. All
Hmm.
right. So what you're talking about essentially is about vulnerability and the uncomfortableness of acknowledging vulnerability. Correct?
Yes,
All right.
yes,
Here's the problem, Bina.
yeah.
Right. Whether you acknowledge the vulnerability or not, does that make any difference to the fact and the
Not at all.
reality of the vulnerability?
Not at all.
No. So exactly, makes no difference. You're
Yeah.
vulnerable or equally vulnerable whether you acknowledge it or not. Now,
Yes.
if you do not acknowledge and become aware of your vulnerability, does that not make you more vulnerable?
Oh yes.
That makes you ridiculously vulnerable, right? I mean, if you have a vulnerability and you don't know about it, then then you are truly vulnerable. But when you know about your vulnerability, you can do something about it. You can take measures. You can be aware, and you can adapt accordingly, and that makes you less vulnerable, right?
Okay. Sil, have you seen the film, I guess, Lord of the Rings, or yes, Lord of the
Yes,
Rings?
yes.
Tree starts walking. Trees starts walking, and the whole bunch of trees walking. Have you seen that?
Well, the priests or the group or the
No, no,
party.
trees, plants.
Oh, the trees. Ah, trees. I thought you said priests. Yeah, the trees. Yes, 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 yes. The forest sky. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I
The
love that part. Well, in the book, I love that part. That's very
Oh my God. I saw the movie in the movie. So for me, right now, just when you were talking about it, okay, uh, acknowledging your vulnerability is kind of crucial because you can't avoid that.
hmm
Otherwise, you will be more vulnerable to other. But the problem is when, as a human, and we kind of grew up with our ego, or somehow
Oh yeah.
it's
Oh yeah.
instilled, and our ego is like our soulmate, is like our companion,
Right.
always there with us, always there.
Yes.
No matter how we try to avoid or ignore it, it is always there with us. So we
Right.
kind of used to with it. And
Yeah.
ego is not like something you can just say, okay, this is something I'm holding in my hand, it is a packet, it is a parcel, I can
Right.
give it away, throw it away. No, it is not like that. It is inside our blood, it moves inside our blood, and it grows its roots even under our feet in the ground, and it makes us grounded, it makes us feel grounded, not really grounded, but it makes us feel grounded.
Right.
So we feel safe, we feel protected, we feel strong when we have our ego spread
Right.
its roots inside the ground, and I say,
Right.
okay, yes, this is my position, this is who I am. But when we start looking at things in a different perspective, in an abstract way, like
hmm
you said, it makes us aware that it is something really not actually making grounded us. No,
Correct.
we are
Correct.
not holding. This is not who we are. This is not the source of the strength we're looking for. It is just holding us.
Right.
Okay, till now things are good because everybody wants to be good. In by
Right.
nature, human wants to be good. This is what I observe now.
Correct.
Everybody wants to be good. So by nature, by instinct, we are good people. And when we try to ignore, or we try to just pull this ego out,
Yes. Yes.
process the process is painful,
It can be. It doesn't have to be.
but it is. This
All right.
process,
So
yeah,
Beena,
process is
let,
painful.
let me just make this point real quick. Ego
Yes.
is a tool.
Yeah.
Ego is
Yes, you
write it
said
down
that.
for me. Ego is a tool.
Okay.
Right.
Oh, ego
Right.
is it.
Now, in English, when you say somebody's a tool, that's like saying they're a knucklehead or a fool or a dickhead or kind of an asshole, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know the expression when you say somebody's a tool, like Donald Trump is a tool, right? All right. So, but also that's why I like that quote. Ego is a tool. Very short quote, 3 words, but very profound. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's got a double meaning. Ego is a tool, as in the negative side of it, but it's also a tool like a hammer, right? It's something that
Okay.
we use. So ego
Yes.
is not necessarily negative in itself. It is inappropriate ego, which is the problem.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
So if I set my ego to being good and to be genuinely good, I set my ego. I'm going to take pride, for instance, in being sober, in being honest, in being sincere, in being kind, in being courteous, etc. That's a positive use of my ego, is it not?
Yes.
All right. So it's inappropriate ego, which is the issue.
Okay. Yes. But what you are saying that ego is just like an physical tool without having its own will or perception.
Ah,
But
that's
unfortunately,
now we're getting to the core of the issue.
Yeah, but
That's the point.
unfortunately, the ego is not idle.
Yeah,
It's
but
not.
that's the point, Bina. It's the ego that is poorly utilized. It's when ego is in charge of us, then
Yeah,
we become the tool.
yeah.
Right.
Oh,
So we have to switch it around. We need to be in charge of our ego, not the other way around. Precisely all the problems with self-importance and vanity and narcissism and misbeliefs of self, and naivety, all of that come from ego being in charge. That's the problem. So it's inappropriate ego again. That's the problem. We need to use ego because you can't have the hammer be in charge of you. You need to be in charge of the hammer, else you're going to be banging your fingers all the time, right?
yes,
So,
of course.
exactly right. So that's the point. It's you being in charge of your ego. That's why I like that again. Ego is a tool. When we understand that it's a tool to be used, it can only be used if we're in charge of it. Can't be any other way, right?
Yes.
Very profound, very powerful deal. So we can't be
It,
ruled
it
by our
is.
ego.
It is profoundly profound.
Right, right.
But
So,
I'm saying that I, this is like okay, becoming my tagline that this process is not really a walk on flowers or something like walk on clouds. No, not at all. Because your ego is when it's being crushed by your own thoughts.
yes,
It
but
is.
that's magical. See it as a positive. Don't see it as a negative. See that as positive. If your ego can be crushed by your thoughts, say yay. That's freaking fantastic. I am not my ego. Please write that down in all caps on
Okay.
in your own notes, not in the chat, because the chat notes go away. So you write it in your own notes. I
Okay.
am not my ego. All caps.
Uh, and
Right. So
my
right.
ego.
So if your ego gets crushed, does that mean you are crushed?
It feels like.
But that's because you identify with your ego. So make that understanding to say, I am not my ego. If my ego is crushed, that's not me. That's my ego. So too bad,
Okay.
ego, you get crushed. So bloody what? That's too bad.
And,
Tough luck.
it
Toughies.
feels like part of myself has been crushed.
I understand because that's because you over identify with ego and that has to end. It's as simple as that. No more.
Because I'm talking about myself. I'm not
Yeah,
saying
yeah, no,
you.
but this is
I,
this is not
yeah,
not something that's unique to you. I
yeah.
mean,
I,
I
I'm,
so
I'm
yeah,
saying about myself like when I start even first the first realization that Beena, whatever you were saying about this particular thing about particular topic and your perception was based on your ego.
right, right,
The moment you realize that, it feels like something shattered inside.
right,
Oh my god, what
right,
I was doing, because I was not really, I was not true to myself. I was not true with my with other people with
right,
whom I was discussing or sharing things. So it feels terrible. It feels really terrible because your whole personality feels like crushed inside. Oh my god, what I was doing.
right,
So it is painful. Okay, now when you're just aware, this is only when you are just aware of it
right,
and accepting that, then the process of self dialogue start. Oh, no, it was not because of this. No, Meena, I was doing for that, I was doing for that. And the
exactly,
cross communication starts in our mind and heart, and I was like continuously fighting with myself and try to prove that no, it was not my ego.
the thing is, it was your ego. The
Yes,
problem is everything
yes,
that you
I
just
was
said,
aware. Yes, I was aware,
right,
but I was denying. I
but
was
there's
denying my own
so
self.
let me just add one thing in here. The
Yeah,
entire problem of that you've just expressed, it's
yeah,
because you identified with your ego.
yeah. Yes,
Separate out and no longer identify with your ego, then how can you be upset with things, and how can you be bothered, and how can you be stressed? You are not your ego. Was my ego that has the problem, not me. See, it's only because you identified with the ego that it became a problem.
But and then then this whole conversation, that cross communication like thing started in your mind, and you just start blaming yourself and accusing, and then say, okay, no,
Right.
no, I'm the saint, I am the holy one. No, I was not my ego at all. I
Right.
was just saying that thing. I was believing in that
Right.
truly and all that.
Right. See,
And
if you say you're blaming yourself,
yeah,
that means you're identifying with the ego. You're not saying,
of
well,
course,
I'm
of
sensible.
course.
Me, my real self is actually sensible, but my ego's a blooming nincompoop, an idiot, and a tool. So you have to make
And
the distinction and say it's
yes,
ego, not me. I am not my ego, and you got to keep repeating that I am not my
yes,
ego.
I'm not me, but I'm not my ego. But still, this is what happened, and I'm telling you what the process was like
Right, right.
gradually.
No, no, no. I'm not
First,
saying that
the
process didn't
awareness.
happen
Okay,
that way.
it was your ego, Beena.
Right,
That thing was
right,
like
right.
shock. It was
And
like
the
kind
problem
of a
is
shock for
right.
me.
I,
And then I start denying the fact. No, I was
oh, I lost you. You went away. The last thing I heard was you were saying I was denying the fact.
yes, and then I start denying the fact that no, I was just trying to make excuses for that. I was trying to make some space,
Right,
try to give some margin, somehow to survive my ego. My ego wants to survive somehow.
right,
So
right.
creating excuses.
Yep,
No,
yep,
I
yep.
was not. I was actually concerned. I was really empath at the time. I was really a good person at that time. And I did that with my true honesty and my good sense and all that. But it
Right,
was my
right.
ego. The thing was uh, was true. That yes, it was my ego, and the denying of fact, and trying to avoid things, trying to avoid situations just because of my ego.
Yeah, yeah.
Not accepting that fact. It is
Right,
horrible
right.
because I was trying to run away from myself, because myself
Yeah.
is actually saying, Veena, this is your ego. This
Yeah, exactly.
ego.
Exactly.
It is like
Right,
a
right.
monster is beside you, like
Right.
running
But
beside
but
you.
that's what I was trying to say now. It's
Yeah.
two things. We can
Yes.
use ego. It can be
Yeah.
negative or positive. We can use it positively, right? So first of all, we have to understand that that's a very critical understanding. Ego can just be very quickly can be flipped around through perspective shifting, and it become this powerful positive force. Secondly, we cannot identify, especially over identify with ego. My ego is not me. It is something different and separate. It is part of my toolbox. It's an aspect of me, and that's it. It's not
Okay.
really me.
And for me, at that time, it was like a monster running after me and just
Right,
yelling that
right,
it is your ego. It is your ego. You have to accept that.
right, right. Yeah, yeah.
I was trying to run away from that
That's
as
powerful.
fast as possible.
That's why we keep saying this. The beginning of learning is to face. First of all, you got to face the awful truth, which you did with the ego. And then you have to deal with the awful truth.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Then when you do that, the awful truth becomes the awesome truth.
okay.
When
But
we succeed in making ego a tool, one that we can put to good use, positive use, then we've unhooked from being a slave to ego to being in charge of ego. We flipped it completely around, and bingo, suddenly everything is wonderful. The awful becomes
it
the awesome.
it is also just the feeling of being vulnerable after being aware of your ego side. uh, it shows me that how many triggers I have, how many soft corners I have, how many soft points.
Let me stop you there. When you
Yes,
say how many triggers I have, how many soft corners I have, is that
yes.
accurate? Don't you mean how many triggers your ego has?
I always identified myself with my
That's
ego.
my point. That's what I was saying earlier. It's not the issue of the ego. It's the problem that you over identify with your ego. You see Beena and ego as being the same thing. All right. Now,
Yes,
in the past, yes, they maybe were. However, when we are talking about spirit warrior aspirant Beena,
yeah.
does ego have any part in that conception?
No, not at all.
None. Zero. Exactly. Exactly. Absolutely none. So that's real Beena, right?
Okay.
That's real Beena. That's
Okay.
the
Now.
Beena that I know. That's the Beena that I connect to. That's the Beena that I'm interested in. That's the Beena that I interact with. That's the Beena that I see. And I have a very, very excellent skill in seeing past surface bullshit to see the real person. I mean, this is not just a matter of opinion. I have expertise in this. I have a skill in this. So I see Spirit Warrior Beena. Yes, there's bullshit, but that's ego. That's just part of legacy. That's habit. That's something easy to deal with. Seriously, it is easy to deal with. It might not seem so, but it actually is. The key is to understand and to shift that self-conception, to start thinking of yourself not as Beena slash ego, but to think of yourself as spirit warrior aspirant Beena, real Beena. That's real Beena, not the idea of Beena that is ego. That's a false idea, correct?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes. You know what? You when we actually started that, the first day, the first word, few words you wrote on your course, that okay, first just say that I am a good person, and
Yes,
I'm true.
yes, yes. I'll pull that up. Hang on, hang on, hang on. We'll go through that again. We'll redo that. This is very important.
I
Very
was
important.
I
Very
was
important. Hold on. Hold
actually thinking that this is something really not useful, because how it is.
on. Trust, trust, Beena. You have to have trust in the big picture.
Yeah,
You
and
mean at the time you thought it wasn't useful?
yeah, I
Ah,
was
that's
thinking
funny.
that it is how it is, how it can be a useful thing, just saying that. If I know that how many flaws I have in myself, how many lacks I have in myself, so how it can be
Right.
really useful for just saying that I am a good person. So, and now, and I was thinking that why are you insisting on that? It makes you a good person the moment you
I
said
love it.
that.
I love it.
And this just now, after like 3 months, this thing just came to me again, that I have to believe in that. So
Right. Now,
that was the first
right.
thing in
Right.
all
So
my life.
so make a note of that in your notes. That sometimes it takes a while for things to permeate and to click, right?
Yes, yes, of
But you have
course.
to just stick with it and just hang in there and give things space and time to actually click. All right. So let's go over that. This wasn't an exercise. I'll just read it again. Which of these
Yeah.
resonate or apply to you? Say yes out loud. Out loud. You are a good person.
Yes,
You have integrity.
yes,
You care about others.
yes,
You have generosity, kindness, compassion.
yes,
You are typically sensible.
yes,
Typically. Yeah, not always, but typically.
yes,
You think patience, impeccability, sobriety, diligence, awareness, appropriateness, etc. are good qualities.
yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. You like having meaning, purpose, and significance.
Yes,
Affection, love, goodness are important to you.
yes, in
You
real time.
cannot be deliberately bad.
This is what I was a bit doubtful about that, because sometimes you
Deliberately.
yeah, but
Deliberately. Not
sometimes you just
inadvertently, not I, but deliberately in full conscious awareness, not getting caught up in a bubble of the moment. Where yes, you
okay,
intend to be mean in that moment, but it's not acting out of the fullness of yourself. It's acting out
okay,
of
yes,
right.
yeah,
So you, we are saying you, real you by implication. Real you cannot be deliberately bad. You cannot
yes,
be deliberately inappropriate.
yes,
You want more in life.
yes,
Yes, absolutely. All right. So this exercise, it's not
yes,
one of bullshit. This is an exercise of self honesty. To say you are a good person, yes. You can only say that with honesty because it's true, not because whether you want to like or so. So this it's which of these resonate or apply to you, right? So if you
okay,
really don't think you're a good person, then say no. But you
No.
can't. You cannot say no. Therein lies the point. See? Now, this one that you cannot be deliberately bad. Yes, technically, if absolutely we have the capability to be deliberately bad. So it's not meant in that context, right? Yes, we all have that ability to be deliberately bad.
Yes.
But is it easy for us to be deliberately bad? For instance, if I said to you, okay, Beena, it's you that's got to die, or I'm the angel of whatever, I'm Lucifer come to test you. God has come to test to see if you're truly a good person. And he says, okay, it's you, or a million people are going to suffer horribly and die, or you've got to give up your life right now. Which are you going to choose?
Oh my God, how can I do that? I can
Exactly.
see person,
E-
any
e-
living being
e-
in pain.
Exactly. Exactly. It's not a choice. You can't be deliberately bad, in other words. You see what I mean? So when it comes to obvious choices like that, now life isn't always so obvious. It's not always a million. Sometimes it's maybe just him or me, or she or me, one other person. Then it becomes a different thing. Now, even then, for good people, they will screw themselves over so that they don't screw others over. Right? Now, and
Yes.
they can be deliberately bad to themselves. Yes. So that's maybe where you're sticking on that point.
I was just sticking at the wrong point because this is for sure that I cannot be deliberately bad, but that the confusion point is the next one. You cannot be deliberately inappropriate
Right.
because sometimes we just caught up in a moment, like flow with
Correct.
the flow, the heat of the moment.
Exactly.
Sometimes we caught up in that thing, and we said,
Right.
"Okay, yes, I was inappropriate at that time."
Correct. But not deliberately so. That's
Yes,
the difference.
yes,
It's the word
yes,
deliberately that's the key. So it
yes.
deliberately here implies in full conscious awareness, full conscious awareness, not a bubble. You can be fully aware in the moment of what you're doing, but you're inside a bubble awareness. So it's
Yeah.
like your accountancy program. Let's say there's a flaw in your accountancy program and it does something wrong. It doesn't mean that your computer's broken. It just means that that
Yes.
inside that bubble things were. So yeah, that's it's about the deliberation. It's about deliberately, and which implies your full consciousness. So yeah, so you can't choose. In other words, you cannot choose to be inappropriate if you know it is a choice in the grand scheme. See what I mean? In the heat of the moment, sometimes our emotions and stuff. Fuck it, and you're now the anger, the irritation, the annoyance, or whatever overrides your sensibility, and you choose to do that. But that's not a deliberate thing. Now you're under the influence of some kind of emotional pressure, right? And you might as well say you're under the influence of a drug, because actually, literally, inside you, you are under the influence of a drug because your chemicals change inside you. So you can't say that, okay, you weren't necessarily in charge of yourself. All right, I was. So it's not deliberate, right? Even though consciously you knew that. A lot of times we do stuff that we know we shouldn't do at the time and do them anyway, but that's because we're under the influence of all sorts of stuff, right? Influence of ego, influence of emotion, influence of faulty motivations, influence of poor intent, all sorts of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
we have to know this. But that's the point, though. You cannot be deliberately inappropriate of conscious full choice and awareness. You can't choose it
Right.
if you have a choice, right?
Okay. Yes, I want to share something.
I'm
Uh,
listening. I'm listening. I'm
just
listening.
yesterday, I had a situation where a person was asking me for a favor,
Uh-huh.
and I was in position. I can do that. Some like not 100%, of course, but at some extent, I can do that. And when she asked me, I said okay because I was uh, I was feeling good, and somehow my ego was inflated. Like, oh yes, she's asking me for help, and I can do that.
Right, right, right.
And I was feeling good about myself, and I knew that in future or even right now, I can have a good amount also, even for doing that.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, yes, no problem with that.
You mean a good amount as in money? Sorry, I don't
Yes,
understand.
yes,
Ah, okay.
yes. And I was like, I just think nothing. I said, okay, yes. But just putting down the phone, that awareness thing, which is like a monster just running after me. Uh,
Excellent.
that. Beena, this is something not really good, not morally good. So
Oh, whoa,
yeah,
whoa, whoa. Let me back up here. So your
yeah,
friend asked you to help her with something and do something which she was willing to pay you for, but
yeah,
something that isn't morally good.
yes.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What kind of friends do you have that ask you to do such stuff? That's quite fascinating. Wow.
I'm just calling her my friend because I knew her
Okay.
for like last 3 months.
Okay. Okay. So it's a friend, like this kind of a
Yeah.
friend. All
Yes.
right. All right.
Yes.
But still, either way, I've never
It's
had somebody ask me to do something that's morally inappropriate for money on top of it. That's quite fascinating. That's magical. So Bina, I'm trying to say this is sorry. I want to hear the rest of your story. I really am listening. I only interrupt because I'm listening exceedingly closely.
yes.
The reason I'm excited is I'm pointing out the anomaly of it. This is something quite, unless you have this happen fairly regularly, which would also be anomalous. But this is quite anomalous, is it not?
Yes.
In other words, this is something from the universe. So we have to pay attention and look at it differently. To not look at it in itself only, but to look at it from an anomaly point of view, which is to see it as symbolically as a gift of learning from the universe, in other words. Something that anomalies are there because they say, hey, pay attention. This is outside of what you could learn in a normal, ordinary way, something. It's the unknown that's being brought to you, and this is something new and different. You need to pay attention because there's more going on here. So it's a gift of learning, this entire incident, right? Right. So let's hear the rest of it. Okay. So your friend
Okay.
asked you to do something morally questionable for money.
Yes, and I had nothing to do. Like nobody will
Uh,
know,
so
anything
let me just
like
add one more
that.
point. I'm sorry, Bina. Just let's back up again. You not
Yes.
only were being asked to do something morally questionable for money, also there was an implied status to it, right? That if you accept, you would be elevated like as a teacher or a guru or a helper or something of that nature, right?
Yes. Yes. Also.
So
Yes.
there
Also.
was that lure, not just of the money, but of the ego status
Yes.
aspect to it
Yes.
as well. All right.
Yes.
So do you see
That's
now?
why I said
Do
my
you
ego was inflated.
right? Exactly. Do you see the magic already? The magic of the gift of the lesson. It's like you being tested. It's like you being given the choice to say, "All right, Bina, you believe you've been dealing with ego. We're going to put you to the test to see if you actually can deal with it or not. If you've actually really learned your lesson or not. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
It's
And
it's profound, is it not? Huge, 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 huge.
and when I put down the phone, and I said, yes, I will do that. I said that. And when I put down the phone, my inner self start talking. Beena,
Good, good,
what you
good.
are doing? This is not good. And this is morally not good. Yes, no one can catch you. No one will know that it was you behind that.
Look at the
But
genius.
yeah,
I'm
but it
listening. I'm
is,
just going to put the kettle on.
yeah, okay.
Carry on, carry on. I can hear you. I'm on speaker. I'm gonna put. I mean,
Okay.
yeah.
So, and I myself start talking, Beena, this is something not really good. And this is something which you should not do for anyone, not for any sake, because somehow in future it will cause some issues for some problem for other people. And I was like, how can I say no now? Because I said that I will do that.
Mhm.
I made a
Excellent,
commitment. And
excellent, excellent,
and,
excellent.
and
Oh, what a gift!
my,
What a gift from the universe for you. What a gift from the universe.
yes, and I was just trying to manipulate somehow my words, calculate my words. How can I say no to her? Because this is something I cannot do. So first, I just called back her again, and I said, "Okay, now here's the thing that I'm not responsible for anything. Still, though I was trying to say no, I cannot do that, but my ego was saying no. This is something I will not be responsible for anything, kind of. So I was kind
Brilliant.
try this myself, but still I was clinging and I was not trying to let it go.
Yes, yes, yes. All
And,
right. So carry
yes,
on, carry on. I just wanted to sum up a little bit quickly because there's a double issue here. Your integrity was being tested, and your ego, and also the fact of the exact point that we were making about being deliberately bad or being deliberately inappropriate. You
Yes.
made an inappropriate decision and you said, yes, I'll do it, but it was done in unawareness. When you thought about it more, you realized, oh, I can't actually do this, right?
Yeah. Yes,
So
exactly.
you
So,
have to deal with that, and it's an integrity thing. Well,
yeah,
you said you would do it, but now you have to go back and say, sorry, I can't do it because I thought about it and I can't do it. So
yeah. And that thing was she was, I I was assuming something else, and she was using it like uh, in more different ways.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it is like I was giving a loaded gun to someone who is actually not aware of
Excellent.
the consequences.
Excellent. Yes, yes. Very powerful. Very powerful. So there's an. Sorry, I hope you can keep your story, because if I save all of this till afterwards, it's going to get lost. So,
Hmm.
so here's an issue about complicity,
Yeah.
where if you do this, you are going to be complicit in enabling somebody to
Yes.
be bad, right?
Yes.
So now
Yes.
now you not only have ethics, I'm sorry, integrity as an issue, but ethics has now come into it also.
Yes. And I was confused because uh, b- before she said that it was about something morally right, but now when she's just opening up and she start talking about that, it somehow turns into a really not good thing.
A
And
manipulation sounds like.
yes, yes, and I was like,
Uh-huh.
wow, what is this? What I have done and what I am doing now. So
Yeah,
I said,
wonderful,
no, I will
wonderful.
not do that. And then again, I put down the phone and again call back. And I said that, okay, this is something I cannot do.
Good for you.
Yeah. And she said, Beena, this is what I want. And okay, no, I will not use it in that way, and I will not do that in that way, and all blah blah blah. But I said that, okay, you are talking about this dimension, and I was thinking something else. But now things are coming up like the way you are saying, so it is not something I can do. And she said to Beena, you are magical, you are just saying absolutely accurate things, and you said that and it happened, you said that it happened. She was just trying to boost me up.
Yes,
Understand?
yes. Excellent, excellent.
Because she needs that thing.
Yep,
And
yep.
I was kind of trapped in that thing. And it was draining my energy. I was feeling like
It will do. Yes.
someone just actually just suck out all the blood from
Yeah,
myself. Like I
yeah,
was
yeah.
feeling very low in energy. And I don't know, I was lost. I was actually lost. And then I realized that this is something I am trapped in because I just made a decision
Uh,
without being really conscious of. I made an
yes, yes, yay.
and this was horrible.
Is that not a profound realization and awareness, Bina?
Oh yes, it
Is that
is.
not a magical, magical, magical gift?
Yes, it is. But because that thing is now with the guilt part. Because
So Bina
guilt,
grew up a little bit right there, yeah?
yes, yes,
Isn't that magical, Bina? Isn't that magical? Isn't that magical? We all grow up.
yes,
I'm not
yes.
listening. I just have the headset off. I'm just getting milk. But carry on, carry on, carry on.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is. But I always have but that no, it is not like that. I was assuming that from the beginning, it somehow just it fixated in my mind that this course will be only fun for me. Oh my God, I will learn, I will grow, and I will have fun. But every single time, my expectations is somehow crushed by no, Beena. It's a hardcore truth. So it's not fun. It's not the easy. It's not an easy ride. and it's not something you can just take in your hand and just throw it when you don't want it. No, you can't just throw it. It is like ego. The
There you go.
the fun part is the ego is like flowed in your blood. Same with the awareness. Once you are
Mhm.
aware, you cannot get rid of it. You can't get rid.
Exactly.
It is there. You can't just run away from that. Same with the ego issue, yes, but
Right.
ego is still weaker than awareness because
Yes. Yes.
you can get rid of your ego, not permanently all the time, but yes, you can
Yes.
get rid.
Yes. Well, you can learn to
But
be in charge of your ego. So
the awareness is with you unless you have dementia or something.
correct.
Just
Correct. And
you
typically
can.
dementia is because people can't learn to deal with their awareness.
Oh my god.
They refuse to deal with the awful truth, and it screws them up. It's very simple. If you're not going to
Mm.
deal with that little, you got that rattle in your engine of your car, or whatever, some machine, and you don't deal with it, eventually the machine's going to obviously, whatever's loose inside there is going to break up the whole thing and cause it to not work properly. So yeah, you got to deal with this shit. Can't ignore it, right?
So, so it is like okay. Before I had a one guest, which name was ego, and now I have two. One is awareness and one
Wow.
is ego. They
Well,
both are
one
not
is
ready.
awareness and ego. Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
and
yes.
they both are not ready to go anywhere. No, they
Right,
are not.
right.
They
But
are okay. Yeah, I can get rid of. I can throw. I just kick out the ego for like temporary,
right,
but it is very rigid,
right,
stubborn. Comes back again and again and again, and you have to kick it back again and again
right,
and again.
right.
So I was assuming to get rid of one guest, but now I have two.
Right. And it's not getting rid of them, it's learning to use them appropriately. That's the point. Right. Because
Yes,
ego is a tool, and it's a very powerful tool if we use it appropriately, right?
yes, yes. But
Right.
it's still, I'm not actually getting this perspective shifting because for this one needs to be really creative, and I'm not because the way you just show me, and I'm like, wow, it is obvious.
I just have practice. Just
Yeah.
just because I can do it quickly and it seems easy doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means that you haven't learned how to do it yet.
Okay, but
Not in itself difficult. It's just a matter of habit. That's all.
but but when you said that, I was like, oh yes, it is obvious. But before I was stumbling here and there and everywhere, nothing was
Right.
happening. I was like, oh my god,
Right, right, right. So all it is getting into the habit of zooming out and looking at things from that different perspective, and to say, hey, not just to assume, what the deal is, So
you, actually what when this perspective shifting, this is something really magical because if
yeah,
a person has this skill, he or she can not only live a good life, but also he can, or she can have an ability to turn his fortune, like his fate. Okay,
exactly,
yes,
exactly.
because
Perspective
perspective
shifting is a
is,
magic wand.
yeah, it is.
It's
You can
transformative. Yeah.
you can change your life. You can change your fortune. Like okay, people say that this is something
Right,
written. It is
right,
engraved in the holy books, and it has been engraved in the skies that you cannot be something, or you cannot have more than
right.
what is written. But perspective shifting is a huge thing. Is a
Oh yeah,
huge
oh
thing.
yeah, oh yeah.
Once a person just learn that, or
Right.
learn how to use that, the
Yes.
whole life can be changed because this is something really magical.
Yes. Yeah. It is. It is a true power. It is a phenomenal, phenomenal power. It is
Yes.
something absolutely incredible.
Yeah. If someone just reading that, if even if I'm just staying by myself, okay, if I was not in that, I was not doing this course, and I just found somewhere that written that perspective shifting can change your life, can change your fortune, I was like, no, it is something. And I
Right.
did
Right.
but make sense when can see them in the context, and you can see the connections.
Correct.
You
Correct.
can make the connections.
Right.
Without connections, things are just useless,
Exactly. Exactly.
nonsense.
Exactly. So it's about the appropriateness in context. Has to be in
Appropriate.
context. We have to see it in context to see that connectivity.
Yes, yes.
Right.
Like right now, I was not aware that the first thing when you were saying that, Beena, say yes out loud. Okay, I am a good person. I cannot be deliberately a
Right.
bad person.
Right.
And I was saying yes in the first time. I was saying yes, and I was thinking that this is something not really meaningful because it is useless. Okay, I'm saying that, but what's the use if I'm not actually believing in that? If I don't really believe in that, if I'm not, because I was not understanding the depth of these sentences.
Right.
But
Right.
today when you were saying about ego and all that, and I realized, okay, now this is something I was associating my ego with myself.
Yes. All right. So
And
something really profound, and you got to write this
yes.
down. Really profound. Just because you do not understand does not mean you cannot understand.
Also, if a person is not understanding, it doesn't mean that this thing is useless or senseless.
Right, right. But first of all, you have to understand that just because you don't understand now does not
Oh,
mean you cannot understand. Very important. A lot of people confuse that. They assume because they don't understand now, they believe they cannot understand. And as you've just discovered, like with that first thing about the are you good and all those questions, that you didn't understand then, some of them, but that doesn't mean that you cannot understand. But at the time, you kind of had that a little bit of an assumption. It was in the back of you there somewhere that oh, I can't get this. I don't know this. It's not possible. This is too much for me. And all that ego stuff, which gets overwhelmed, and ego says, oh, I can't deal with it, and starts to feel self-pity. Ego does the opposite of boosting itself. It boosts itself negatively, as in self-pity, when it doesn't want to deal with something, right?
yeah.
Because if ego says it's too much for me, then ego can say, well, it's not my fault I don't understand, it's too much, that's why I don't understand. You see, so ego's shifting the blame for not understanding. So but that's, of course, it's just ego bullshit, right? It's not true at all. Just because you don't understand doesn't mean you cannot understand, and it doesn't also mean there's not a value. So the key is, when you don't understand, make that effort to understand. And in our context, ask, ask, ask. It's precisely the purpose of the takeaway sessions, is to say, you know what, when we're going through that, it didn't quite make sense, it didn't fit, it didn't resonate, I didn't get it. You've got to speak up, in other words. Yeah.
If you remember that, I didn't say anything about that part. I am a
I
good
do
person.
remember. Yes, yeah, I remember, and you should have.
It
Bloody
was not
hell!
making sense to me. And I was saying, okay, I was just believing, I was just having trust that, okay, it is just an introduction,
Right,
kind of a ritual. So we are doing that,
right,
and we will move
right,
on to the real core of the course.
right.
So I didn't say anything about that. I try to be as honest in my reactions as possible. I
Yes,
try to
yes.
be
I
as
know. I know you do. I give you a little bit of a hard time, but you are generally. But here's the key, though. It's you've got to speak up when it's vague. In other words, you speak up when you don't get it, and it's very clear that you don't get it, or you speak up when you think you disagree, right?
yeah.
But
Yes.
when it's like, well, I'm not quite sure. Well, yeah, it sort of sounds right, but the question was, which of these resonate or apply to you right now? The question was, which of these resonate? Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So if it's like that, well, I'm not quite sure. It's not resonating,
Hmm.
right?
Okay.
And like in this case, we went through, and you said yes, 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 yes. When we got to that one question, you didn't say yes right away. You had that pause, and that's appropriate.
Because I have to now, because this is first time I did that. I was not aware about. I was not actually know
Right.
what I was doing. It was like,
Yes.
okay, you
Yes.
just open the
Yes.
door and I just
Yes.
stepped in. So I was not aware
Yes.
what's in the room. But
Right.
now, second time when I entered, so I know that.
Right.
So I was watching all my steps. Okay, where I am putting my first step. Okay, this is where I am. Okay, now what
Right.
I have to say. So I was aware. I kind of not actually 100%, but yes, I'm
Right.
aware because I know it will make more connections in future.
Right.
I
Exactly.
was I was actually trusting the process, okay, because I just made the commitment that okay, I will do that course, and I was really feeling myself. Oh my god!
Hey, the elephant.
Yeah,
It sounded like an elephant.
no, it was a biker, heavy bikers. They are
Ah,
moving.
right. It sounded like an elephant trumpeting.
Yeah. So, but because I made a commitment, or because I was really excited, overexcited about this course at the time because it was like a gift just I got from like from the
Yes.
skies. I'm like,
Yes.
wow, I got this. I can do
Right.
that. And, so I was looking at every possibility, every chance to just grab it, just
Yes.
grasp
Yes.
as
Yes.
much as possible.
Yes. All
And
right. So,
but
ah,
now things are different because
yes.
I am kind of aware because I did that. Like like in 2 months, I am more aware than I was before.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And we're just getting started. And we haven't even really started. I mean, we just barely getting started, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Isn't that magical? All right. So understand this, please, and write down this key power word: persistence.
Oh yes.
Right. So all you have to do, seriously, all, I mean all capital, all caps,
Yes.
right? All you have to do is persist, right?
Okay.
To get to this point where you are at today, you got here
Yeah.
because you persisted in continuing and doing this, right? So that is all that's required, simply for you to persist in this endeavor that we are undertaking. Simply persist in the interaction, simply persist in doing the program as best you can. It doesn't matter if it's more or less, if it doesn't come out right, if you don't understand. As we've discovered, at the time you
Oh
didn't quite
yes.
get it, but you
Yeah.
persisted. Now you think you understand it today, and you do. But later you're going to say, wow, there's even more to that. Why?
Of
Because
course.
there's always more. So we always in this situation of we understand, and then we kind of think we understand, and then we realize there's even more. So we have to be aware of that and simply persist, so that give it time and allow for that awareness to come. Right?
Yes. Yes.
How
Because
exciting is that?
it is exciting because I'm not actually really fond of diamonds, but the thing mesmerized me always the fine cuts. Because
Yes.
when you
Yes.
see it closely, you see the connections, you see the cuts, and it makes a
Right.
huge
Right.
magical impact. And same I feel when I imagine this course in my mind and making connections. It makes an image of a diamond, like okay, finely cut diamond, because it
Right.
making connections and sparkling and emitting lights. So it is amazing for
Ah,
me.
exactly. Now, those cuts on a diamond, what are they called? What is the
I don't
exact
know.
word? There's
I
a.
don't.
You do know probably when I say it, you'll recognize it. They are called facets.
Oh, I
Oh,
didn't know that.
okay, okay. But you recognize the word facet, right?
Yes,
All right.
yes.
So that's what they are called. Literally, like if you have certain cuts, it will be like say a 20 faceted diamond or 16
Uh-huh.
or whatever, right? So each little side, each cut, in other words, is
Yes.
called a facet, right?
Uh-huh.
Now look how profound that is. What you are entranced by is, in other words, facets, which is simply another word for perspectives.
Wow.
Right. So that's what makes a diamond so magical, is that it takes in light from multiple perspectives. That's what gives it sparkle. That's what makes it magical. If you've
Oh
ever
my
seen,
God.
have you seen an uncut diamond that has no facets, no perspectives? In other words, it's the dull,
Oh yeah.
ugly piece of rock. It's
Yes.
it's terrible,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
perspective is what transforms. a uncut diamond from a useless, ugly piece of lump of rock glass into something
Wow.
truly magical. Perspective.
Wow.
Perspective. Yes, wow. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Oh my God. I just love it too, because this is what I was having in my mind, that when things making connections, and making connections and again connections and then making sense, and so for me it is like a huge like really fine cut diamond in my mind.
Yes.
Yes, and
Yes.
I'm feeling
Yes.
like,
Yes.
wow.
All right. So I'll make a note right there. I have a task for you. Please make a
Yes.
post about this magic of the diamond and perspective. How a
Okay.
diamond is magical because it is multifaceted.
Ah,
You
yes.
cannot have a diamond with a single facet.
Of course.
So the magic is now make a post about that. And the second thing that I want to do as a task is when you've written it all out, before you post it in the group, send it to me in message or in an email,
Okay.
and
Yes.
I'll go over it as an editor, right? So
Yes. Yes.
because we do want to get Beena to also be an editor. Beena is a magical writer. You already are an excellent writer. Have no doubt about that. Writing is about communicating your point, communicating your emotion, communicating your understanding, communicating your excitement, the feeling, the energy, the importance, etc. Right? So it's not about how you use words, it's how you communicate. This is the task of writing. And all art, really, writing just being one of the arts, right? So, all art is about communication, not about the specifics, right? So, editor though simply does what that diamond cutter does. They burnish and they polish, because you can cut it, but after it's been cut, right, you still have to have somebody who burnishes and polishes and gets that gleam out, right? So the editor is the one who polishes and burnishes,
Oh yeah.
because if you
Okay.
don't have that, that glass can be dull. You need to polish it so that the light
Of
can,
course.
so you can see the
Of
magic,
course.
right? So we want to get you to be an editor as well as a creator. You're already the creator. We're just going to tweak your editing a little bit so that you can take your cut diamond and polish it to bring out the full luster. That's the word that they will use, the full luster of the diamond, right? So
Okay.
just send it to
Yes.
me before you post, and I'll go through it with you. And so we'll do a little mini editing program just on the side, just as an extra bonus.
Oh yes. Yes. So you know what I did? The
Well, I'm
ego.
listening.
Before it was like it was my ego was really hurt. Okay. Yeah, she still said that I'm calling
I
Papa and
know,
all that and all that.
I know.
Now and then I just said, okay, he is giving me an opportunity to feel like like a writer, an author. So I will write and he will edit. So
There
Beena,
you go.
just enjoy this.
There you go. No, leave that bloody ego around. Also, Bina, understand something.
Yes.
I am aware of our relationship. Now,
Oh yeah.
how you perceive our relationship and how I perceive it different. All right. So, first of all, you that culture, especially where you are in, it's much more so than it is here in the West. But even here, it's an issue, right? In terms of gurus and teachers and all this, they have an inordinate, disproportionate status in your part of the world, right? They are venerated,
Yes.
they are revered, they are like, it's a big deal, right? Okay.
Yes.
However, so you have some legacy of that perception in you,
Yes.
in that
Yes.
relationship in you. Now,
Yes.
just because you have it doesn't mean I have it. All right.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that it's necessarily appropriate. Yes, I understand that in the way most people deal with it, they do believe it to be appropriate. However, from the other side, it is
Yes.
not so. All right.
Yes.
If you go
Yes.
to any supposed guru, if they not a real actual guru will never call themselves a guru, right? That's other people who do it. They just see themselves as somebody who has something and they're sharing it, or maybe even teaching it. They may even have that perspective, but fine. They don't necessarily think that there's something inherently different. They're just understanding something and they're sharing it. All right. Secondly, they also, if they really got their shit together, and then I really got sensibility, and I'm not talking about ego bullshit, narcissist gurus, because there's
Yes.
plenty of them too. I'm talking about the real ones. they don't want you to have that discrepancy of opinion. Because if you have this idea of seeing yourself as vastly different, there's no way you are going to be that person. Take Buddha, classic example. Buddha said, be me, be a
Yeah.
Buddha. What he was teaching and sharing was how to be him, how to be also be a Buddha, right? So
Yes.
if you're always the student and you're looking up at the Buddha and saying, oh, you're wonderful, you're fantastic, you're automatically saying there's this big gap and difference by implication, correct? Which
Yes.
makes it more difficult to get to where you are. All right. So what you are actually is a Buddha as far as Buddha is concerned, right? He sees the Buddha in you, unquestionable to him, correct?
Yes.
Right. So all that has to happen now is that we have to keep cutting those facets to reveal the Buddha.
Uh-huh.
Yes?
Yes.
So to the Buddha, he sees this the uncut diamond, and all his job is to cut and remove the crap, because that's what happens, right? When you cut that thing, you actually kind of remove a lot of stuff, because when you cut a diamond, you're removing stuff. So you remove
Yes.
all the crap, then you polish it, you cut it into facets, and so that's the job, is to help you to cut your own shit away. Never mind me do it, you do it. All right. But the point I want to make is that you have to understand too about your ego, because this is it's a layered perception here.
Yes.
Because of that cultural perception too, right? If you have this idea of somebody up there and you're looking up to them, all that, you don't want to disappoint them,
Yes.
and that is a corruption right there.
Yes. Okay.
Right.
Oh.
Because if you are concerned about disappointing, that could lead to being dishonest about where you at and how you react to things. So, for instance, like when I said that thing with the commas or whatever that is,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
You may have, this, and now you deny it, and you don't want to acknowledge the truth of it, because if you do, then in your mind you're going to be disappointing me or whatever. And it's not that way with me at all. What difference does it make to me? It's just a thing. It's like a nothing, right? So it's only in your mind because of that perception of this relativity of status. As far as I'm concerned, you and me, we're both these lumps of glass that need to be polished and cut. There's no damn difference.
Okay. Okay. This is what I'm doing now. Yes, it is in my culture. It is in my blood
Why?
somehow.
Why?
My whole family,
Why?
my ancestors were teachers. They were preachers,
Why?
and
Why?
uh, this is what I learned from my culture,
Why?
from my religion. That okay, this hierarchy system and the
Yeah.
respect.
Why? So
And
for why?
yes,
Why?
and the teacher for
Why?
me, because you know that in Quran we have the three parents, like one we have by blood, like my father, my mother, and
Why?
my in-laws, future in-laws, and
Why?
my teacher. They
Yeah.
are like my parents.
There you
So
go.
this is,
Why?
yeah, this
Why?
is in my
Why?
religion
Why?
also.
Why?
And the situation I just somehow got in this Facebook thing, like my limited number of friends, but they are so precious for me. They are
Why?
so
Why?
they
Why?
do they play a very, very huge role in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Play a
Yeah.
very huge role in my
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
Though they are my friends, they are trying to be as
Why?
humble as possible, but they are retired
Why?
people, yes.
Why?
But with you, when I feel that this is something not really good, okay, I don't want to do that. I was like, okay, no,
Good.
that's it, no,
Good.
no more.
Good.
I was not dealing with you like I do with my other friends. There are few I lost my friend, one of my friend I lost last year in a digraph, and she was an old lady, but a wonderful human being. She was an atheist, but a incredible human being and a philosopher, an amazing person, and she taught me a lot of things in my life.
So when
And
you say you lost her, did she die? Is that what you mean?
yes, yes,
Ah, okay. So she transitioned. Let's call it that rather. It's a better way to say it.
and it was a sudden shock for me because for 3 days she was not here, and suddenly I said,
Right.
okay, I have to go to her page and look at her, and I saw news that she passed away.
Ah, interesting. All right.
And
Transitioned. That's the word I like to use, transition. Because
yes,
if you say passed away or I
yeah,
lost, that to our inner selves, that implies that you don't have a connectivity. If I say transitioned, now
Yeah.
myself understands, oh, wait a second, I'm just have a different relationship to before. I now
Yeah.
connect to her spiritually as opposed to literally and in physicality. That's all. So you still love her, you still connected to her, it's just a
Of
transition.
course,
That's
of
all.
course,
Right.
of course. I love
Very
her.
powerful, that word transition. Very, very powerful.
Yes. And it was in June, and I suddenly I thought like, okay, yes, she's no more with us here in
Right,
physically.
right, right,
That thing was really shocking for me. And one of my friends just said, Beena, unfortunately or fortunately, you have people in later years. You have friends in their later years,
right.
so you have to be prepared for these
Yep,
things.
yep,
You have
exactly,
to be
exactly,
very,
exactly.
very
You gotta be real, Bina. You gotta be real. Can't not be real. It's as simple as that. Also,
so.
also,
Yes.
don't make something too important in your life because that makes you vulnerable.
Oh yes.
Very simple.
And okay, so that thing was really shocking for me, and I realized that yes, uh, I have to face this situation again and again in my life. Though it was painful, though it is painful, but I can do that. I can't do anything for that. It
There
is
you
what
go.
it is.
There
It's a
you go,
reality.
real. Yep.
I am really more concerned about my friends and their well-being, and also about their emotional health also. I want them to be happy.
Yes.
And,
Appropriateness, in other words.
yes, yes. So like with Paul, I know that he has a very high ego, very high
Why?
ego.
Why? Why?
Paul, and he is in his some way he owns me. He said that oh, she's my bubbly Beena, she's my
Yeah.
daughter. So
Right.
he
He
owns me.
believes he owns you, but he doesn't
Yes,
really, of course.
yes.
Right. Right.
Somehow. Uh, I'm not saying anything to him, but of course I know that we are in
Yeah.
a weird relation. That
Yeah.
he is living there and I am living here, and we have a
Right.
lot of
Right.
differences. We have a lot of
Right.
differences,
Right.
even like on
Right.
political basis, on religious, on cultural, a lot of it.
Yeah.
But
Paul is a fantastic gift for the application of capital D diplomacy. But carry on.
but so I want him to be alive as much as possible.
Right.
I am the comforting one for him.
Right.
He have
Right.
a lot of people who
Right.
actually hate him,
Right.
actually
Right.
discredit him for a
Right.
lot of things. So both things are necessary for him. This the kind of crucial for him because he
Yes.
needs a fight. He needs a fight to feel alive. He
Yes.
needs
Yes.
someone to fight with to
Right.
feel alive,
Right.
and he
But
needs
it is to prove his superiority to
yes,
himself,
yes, also.
which of
So
course never really happens, but because ego is in charge of him and he identifies with it and he doesn't use it as a tool. So
yes, and my
it's
other
a
friends
marvelous
also.
gift to see ego in that sense. Right.
Yes, yes. And also my other friends, the most important one, of course, is Alan. He actually saved my life. I'm not saying anything
Yeah, yeah,
other than
yeah. No,
that.
I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. That's excellent.
Yes.
I hear you.
And yes, he not actually saved my life. He also guide me at whoever I am, and I will be. He
Why?
will be with me inside me, so
Yes.
people can see Alan inside me, and I'm
Why?
really proud of that.
Why?
I learned a lot of things. A Facebook thing
Excellent.
also from my
Awesome.
Bible,
Awesome.
from
Awesome.
him.
Awesome.
So like you also, from now on, whatever I will be, people will see you inside me.
Yes. Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
you will see that, okay,
Oh,
because I am getting these things through you.
right. But that you making them your own.
Yes, I'm making
Right.
them own, but still,
That's key.
you will
Right.
be there. You
But
will be
but
there.
but but for me, I don't claim ownership of any of the things
No,
because
I,
they are self-evident sensibilities. So when you make it your own, it becomes your own. So you don't have to say, "Oh, this is from me." Please don't worry about that. It's not part of the
that's
deal.
right.
It's not the issue. I would rather you see it and take it and make it your own, and then express it as your own. If you can truly, with full honesty, express something that originated from me, maybe, but as your own, that would make me happy. That
But
would make me very happy because that to me means, wow, Pina's really getting it. She's taken this, and even if she's using the exact same words, I don't care. but it's coming from Beena as Beena. It's Beena. It's real Beena. That means that you've actually, truly, really taken it in, learned it, and able to use it. That's the objective for me, right?
So
Very important.
this thing for sure that I will not say yes till I don't believe in that. I
Ah,
don't.
it'll come. It'll come.
Huh,
Diligence.
I
Persistence and diligence. Remember diligence and
yes.
persistence that got you to this point?
Even the
Just have
minor
some
thing.
trust. It'll come. It'll come. No worries.
Yeah,
It'll
even
come.
the minor thing.
Right.
I am kind of a child like who asked my father. I actually asked my father and using slangs in front of him, and I asked him what it means and what is so weird about why people feel why you are angry about it because people
Ah,
use
yeah.
it in fight. And my father was like, "Oh my God, Beena, why you ask so weird questions?" And he was talking to my mother, and I was only 5 at that time.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
said, if a word is there, it should have some meanings. And why people are so angry about this, and why
Yeah, wonderful,
people are
wonderful.
using it. So I will definitely, no matter what, no matter how bad it seems like, but I will ask questions,
You
and
have to.
I will,
Yes, yes.
and,
And Bina,
I will
yeah,
not say
right,
yes till
right, right.
yes, actually.
Exactly. In other
Yeah,
words, total honesty. Now, is
yes.
there anything that the little that you know about me is more than enough already? But do you think there's possibly anything that I could not talk about?
No, I
Yeah,
think we can
exactly.
discuss. We can discuss anything.
Exactly. I can, and not only just with you, but I mean with anybody. And I have,
Yes.
oh my goodness, the things that I've heard and that people share, it's like, man, I've heard everything pretty much. Okay. And doesn't mean that I have because I still get surprised, but still, in other words, there's nothing that's out of bounds. There's nothing that's out of limits. There's nothing that I'm going to be offended or shocked by, or I might say, wow, that's whatever, but it doesn't mean that it's not something that we can't discuss, right? So
Yes, yes.
we're absolutely everything is
I'm
up for
discussing with you.
discussion.
I'm
Right.
discussing with you
Right.
because
Exactly.
you made me feel obliged to that you have to share with me and Olivia. So
Right.
I said,
Right.
okay,
Right.
this is something
Right.
what happened with me, and I need to share because I need another
Correct.
perspective.
And we love to hear that sharing. Now, the other thing I wanted to say in terms of that relationship issue, as far as we're concerned, Bina, you are just a friend. You are, I don't mean just a friend in a negative way. I don't mean that
Yeah, I
we
understand
don't
that.
have the perception of hierarchy and that's it. You like
Yes.
us, there's no difference. Okay. We might know a few things and be aware of some stuff and we're sharing with you. All right. But all have difference in some way or another, right? Difference is part of the world. So we're just being real about the difference, but we don't see the difference as being something that inherently means hierarchy. It does not.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Because there's a lot
On
of
this
people that
concept.
know stuff, but that are absolute assholes. So okay, they know a bunch of good stuff that's useful, but they're still a jackass. You probably met some of them, those gurus and all that. Yes, they have valuable stuff that they're sharing, but they're complete dickheads. They're completely all in the ego and they're looking for hierarchy and followers and they want people to worship them and all sorts of shit like that. So
Oh, yeah.
just because you know stuff doesn't mean that you have some, that you got sensibility. No, we don't care about that. We care about goodness and sensibility. The fact that you answered yes to all those questions, that's it. No more is needed. That's enough.
Oh, yeah.
That
Yes. Yes.
is enough. So, in other words, I am enough, but I'm also more. Same as you. You are
I
enough,
am.
but you're also more. Exactly. We are a
Yes.
process. We are a process of continually learning. So none of us can claim any excitement or wonder. Oh, I know shit. Yeah. So what? Relative to the universe, bugger all. So it's just an idiotic thing to get all excited about this, right? And also for us personally, me, I don't care for people to come and say, "Oh, you're a guru, you're a teacher." I don't enjoy it. It makes me awkward and uncomfortable. Maybe I need to learn that and need to be at ease with it. But all right, it's something I need to learn and work on. But you'll see, Biala has the same problem. I wrote it into the story. So it's not something I can't get the whole logic of people worshiping you. Oh my God, that's like torture for me. That's just a horrible idea. So, just trying to say that I understand that our relationship is different. Yes, I might be a bit old and all that, but it doesn't apply the usual rules of respect and hierarchy and all that. They don't apply with us. Yeah, yeah. So you think of me as being 16 years old. How's that? All right.
The last thing I could ever consider for any friend is his age or her age at all, and then
Exactly.
race.
Exactly. It's totally. People ask me,
Anything.
how old are you? You know what I usually say? I say, how old do you want me to be? I can be any age. You want me to be ancient? I can be ancient. You want me to be a child? I can be a child. I can be any age. It all
Yeah,
depends on the circumstances, whatever's appropriate. I mean,
yeah.
I
My
was an
friends
old
when they
man when I
ask
was
me,
a child. Or, even then already, I could
oh,
have been
for
an
of
old
course,
man.
that's right.
Exactly like you. You were old from when you started. You already had oldness to you, right?
Yeah. My friend asked me, "How old are you?" I said, "Okay, I'm 80 plus because
There
this
you
is what
go.
I feel.
Right.
This is
But
what I feel."
just say you whatever age you want me to be. That's it. It's very simple. And then it puts it into context and it makes the question, it's a kind of a polite way of saying the question is irrelevant. It doesn't actually make a difference. People all they like this idea that if you say how old you are, it's going to give them some idea of about you and something they can kind of grab onto and use. No,
Yes.
it doesn't. It's a false idea. It's like, where are you from? I'm from the same place. What were your parents like? All that. All of those questions apply equally to my brother. My brother's a complete opposite to me, pretty much. So where I'm from, how I grew up, where I grew up, all that stuff, they're all meaningless questions. Absolutely, they tell
Irrelevant.
you nothing about me. Exactly.
Nothing about it. So I
Exactly.
don't care about these things because if
Exactly.
I feel
Exactly.
comfortable with a person, he or
Exactly.
she is
Exactly.
no matter
Exactly.
what, no
Right.
matter
So,
what. I
so,
don't care about
so the key
that.
in our relationship is realness. We're
Yes,
always about realness. It's always about awareness. It's about appropriateness. It's about learning. And we love to discuss detail and to get
yes.
inside things because then we understand, we learn that appropriateness, we get to that pertinence and relevance, which leverages emphasis, which is very pertinent. All right. So, one of my
Yeah.
skills is coming back to the topic at hand. We
Wow.
made it. We made a horizontal digression, and we were still on the topic of you and your subversive friend. We shall call him a subversive friend. All right. So here's something I want to share with you. Very important awareness to consider. All right. I'm gonna read you a
Yes.
story, a little story. All right.
Mhm.
A scorpion asks a frog to carry it across a river. The frog hesitates, afraid of being stung. But the scorpion argues if it did so, they would both drown. Considering this, the frog agrees. But midway across the river, the scorpion does indeed sting the frog. But why? Cries the frog. Because it's my nature, the scorpion replies, as they both drown.
Ah,
So the fact
really?
the fact that your friend asked you to do that, by implication, we need to become masters of implication. By implication makes your friend a scorpion.
Okay.
Huh? If you're asking somebody to do something which isn't legit on the up and up, which isn't ethical, which isn't moral, the fact that you are asking means that you already are massively compromised. In other words, you're a scorpion to some degree or another. So, in other words, if you're going to get in bed with a scorpion, you're going to get stung. Very
Yeah.
simple. So know this. Know the simple fact that she asked you automatically almost necessitates you to say no. Just the fact that you were asked says, whoa, wait a second. You can ask me to do something, which means you have no problem with doing things which cross the line, right?
Wow. Yes.
Yeah, implications are huge.
Yes.
Implications are huge. Very, very huge. So this is from our Out BS book, by the way, which is the one that I want to do the reading of, like that's what I made the post
Oh
about
yes.
the
Live
time.
live Facebook reading.
Like a book club kind of a thing, but I'll read it and then people ask questions and, I discuss it. Like in this case, this comes up and now you start to apply it and say, well, like I know of an instance, I could bring up an instance, a friend of mine had a friend that asked them to do something
Yes.
which was not morally, I
Yes.
won't mention names. And I say, but, the implication is just the fact that they asked you already tells you everything, right? That means
Okay.
that they are willing to cross that line. And even worse, they think that you might be. So you need to set them straight. So you need to say, hey, don't ask me stuff like this because my answer is pretty much always going to be no. That's it. I'm not that
Okay.
kind of a person. I don't dance with scorpions.
Okay.
Yes, you might have to say it in nicer ways. We always have to use capital D diplomacy, because we
Yes.
also got to be aware that we don't want to make enemies out of scorpions. That's no good
Oh,
either, right?
yes. Yeah.
So we have to be strategic as well. Always, we need to be strategic and diplomatic. They might not be aware that they've been a scorpion. Now, a lot of people, they grow up in environments where, okay, let's for argument's sake, my guess would be, as a probability, I would say, I don't know, maybe 60, 67, 66%, two-thirds chance that what she was asking you to do had something to do with a boyfriend, likely, right? I would
Sorry, say
guess.
it again.
I'm saying that your friend, what she was asking you to do, likely either had something to do with a boyfriend or family or a job, but likely a boyfriend would be my first guess, or something to do with
Yes.
like a job. All right. So typically she's asking you to do something because she's got some problem with a boyfriend and she wants you to help her fix it, but it's not kind of cool. All right. So
Yes.
okay. So the point here is though that now, she might be caught up in a bubble of where she's kind of like, man, this boyfriend really was horrible to her. He slept with another girl and she wants to get back at him because she's really hurt and all this. And she's not really thinking about what she's doing. She's just under pressure with her motivations. And in her mind, her legacy beliefs that she believes she has to, she should kind of get even with him and rectify the situation and balance things. So it is not actually a moral issue or an ethical issue for her, but an emotional issue, and one which is her default. She thinks that's the right thing to do, right? So she's not being deliberately immoral or unethical.
Yes.
She's just being unaware. So she's not necessarily a scorpion, but it just raises the possibility that she might be. It all depends on the level of consciousness and awareness, right? So this is a very profound point to understand that sometimes people can be scorpions even though they don't mean to be. They get caught
Mhm.
up in scorpion nature, and that's likely what it sounds like with your friend. But from the way that you were responding, I have a feeling that your friend is a little bit more deliberate in this than somebody just caught up in their emotions, and which is why
Yes.
you said she's not your friend anymore. If it had been a genuinely good person just caught up in the bubble of the emotions, you would have stuck with them and persisted and kept going till you got it sorted. But the fact that you kind of let it go implies to me that some part of you realized, this is not somebody I actually want as a friend. Am I reading it?
Yes.
Am I reading the situation correctly?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, I just test my awareness and perception when I get the chance. I don't assume that my read is accurate. I'm testing it. I'm checking it. So I always ask yes, question mark, and I check it out. But and I'm using it for an example as well. I'm combining, I'm multi-layering. You know what I mean? Using it not only
Yeah.
as an example, but also to test my own skills. It's always useful to test one's skills. So in this case, though, from the as an example, you already have resolved the issue somewhat, and you said, "Hey, you know what? My integrity is more important to me.
Okay.
Losing a friend, in this case, that's not of issue. I can't compromise myself. If it means I lose a friend, it means I lose a friend. End of story."
Okay. Okay. The issue is that when she asked me, she just pictured the situation in a different perspective.
Mm,
For me, it was like, okay, she wants just good things in life, and she is doing it with honesty, with good intent, and there's no harm in it. But the things now turning up when she's opening up about these things, it is like manipulating things, and which
exactly.
is
Exactly. Yeah.
morally not ethical,
Yep.
ethically not
Yep.
good for
Yep.
me.
Yep. Yep.
And
Yep.
but the situation is the in the beginning when she portrayed that, and I have a tendency to get melted when a woman cry.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to be careful with that. People can manipulate your goodness. That's what the bullshit manipulator narcissists do. Our book is the BMN book, the Out BS book, the book about bullshit and bullshit manipulator narcissists. That's why manipulator is in that bullshit
Yeah.
manipulator narcissists. That's what we call them, because they
But
manipulate you. And one of the ways they do is to manipulate your goodness.
when people just try, like, okay, I am in pain, I am in suffering, I am in situation, and I
Right,
cry and
right,
all that, and
right,
I feel like, oh my god, somehow
right,
I feel resonate with them, and I just connect myself with them,
right,
and some I just try to
right,
do whatever I
right.
can do.
So,
But so when she portrayed that picture, or she showed me that picture, okay, yes, this is a bad situation I am in, and this is something I really need, and with the good intent and all that.
right,
So I gave her something which she used, actually. And so I'm already kind of in that situation.
right,
But I
right.
realized, and after doing that, I realized that this is something not good. I'm
Excellent.
giving someone a loaded gun who actually don't
Yeah,
know
yeah,
where
yeah.
to shoot.
Right,
So this
right,
is something really bad. And
right, right. Yeah.
the situation is that I have already did something,
I know,
and
but sometimes we do and we learn afterwards. It's just the nature of things. We wish to learn beforehand. It's not always so. All right, it can't be helped. You didn't mean it at the time. So you just have to hope and trust, not just hope, but trust that it will work out for the best because at the time you did it with the best of intentions. All right, so end of story. You learn. The requirement from you, from the universe, is to learn, not to feel bad about it and be self-recriminating and self-flagellate and beat yourself up because you did something that could possibly, or even if it was bad, regardless of what turned out, let's say it did turn out bad, it's still not something that you can beat yourself up about. At the time you weren't trying to be bad, you were trying to be good. So all you can do to fix it is to be good and learn from it, right? That's how you
okay,
fix it, by learning and changing. Now, you can't just learn from it. You have to actually change and use that leverage of feeling bad or, not liking the result to leverage yourself into actually changing. Once you've changed, you are now a different person and you can now let the past go because that was someone else, not the new person you've become. Yes?
okay, okay,
So,
yes,
so the key is that you have to take the responsibility for learning and changing, actually changing. Otherwise, the whole thing is for nothing and it's just bad. So the only way to make it right is to change. Yeah.
okay. I was feeling bad about myself, that how I just got up in that flow, and I was not
Right.
actually looking at the picture in a in a detail thing, that okay,
Right.
what she is trying to do. This
Right.
is something really not good. Manipulating someone and trying to trap someone. This is not
Right.
good.
Right.
And
Right.
I was the one who was providing her some.
Right. But here's the key. Right. As going forward, unawareness is always going to be a part of our existence. Correct.
Yes.
Just a fact of things. So how can
Yeah.
we feel bad about unawareness? We cannot. It's just it is what it is. We have to make the best of it when it happens and use it and learn and grow, and that's the end of it. We cannot feel bad about unawareness. We cannot. It's simply a fact of the matter. End of story. Furthermore, we have to trust that if we are impeccable, the universe is going to sometimes use our unawareness for its own ends. And I've seen this happen regularly. Now, that is
Mhm.
somewhat of a statement that requires a bit of belief. Fine. I'm qualifying it to say yes, it does. But it's something that if you say take it on under advisement and say, wow, okay, he's saying it as a belief. Let me go and check it and see if it works for me. If you go and just implement this and watch and pay attention, then you'll see how when we do things impeccably and it turns out to be a mistake, it turns out in the longer term. Sometimes you may have to wait a very long time to see how it works out. But inevitably, you see eventually it works out for some good that you couldn't see at the time. So, in the same way as our unawareness might cause a supposed mistake, sometimes we are also have to understand that our unawareness is a tool and it is a part of a greater unawareness of a greater goodness that we also don't understand, right? So in the same way as I can do bad because of unawareness, I can also do good because of unawareness.
Okay.
Ah, why is it only one way?
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that a bit self-important to say, oh, well, my mistakes are always bad? Well, you're just putting an overdue importance on your actions. Who's to say your actions aren't going to turn out good either? You don't know. So you can't just go one way, right? Right.
Yes.
So the only thing that we can do, really, we don't know whether they are actually good or bad. That we're never going to know whether they are actually in the big overall picture. Only the universe can know that. So all I can do is make sure that I don't do it again, and that I learn, and that I change, and I make an effort to be impeccable, which minimizes the chances of stuff happening. That's what impeccability is about, to minimize the chances of the unforeseen. Yes? I can't be sure to eliminate them, but I can make the effort to minimize them.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes.
That's what we're all about. So all I can do is learn and learn and learn and grow and change. End of story. That's it. Feeling bad or feeling good,
Yes.
that's a
And
choice. And I can only focus on feeling good about learning. I can't choose to feel either bad or good about the things that have happened in the past. Right? They may be good or they may not be. I have no connectivity to that. I can only feel good about being impeccable. I can't get connected to results because that's just an ego issue. I have no way of knowing if the results are actually either good or bad, no matter how much they may seem in the short term. Now, let me ask you this. Have things happened to you which at the time you thought, oh my God, this is terrible and this is the worst thing and it's horrible. And then later on you say, oh my goodness, that was actually fantastic. That was a gift.
yeah.
Take your recent depression, or the just me and you, just to make it personal. The things I said to you, and then they put you all out, and it's like, was this whole big thing? And then later, when you came to realize what it was all about, it suddenly became this wonderful gift, right? Same thing that happened, but
Yes.
from one
Yes.
perspective, it was terrible, and then you shifted perspective,
Yes.
and it was
And
so. So
yes.
we
Also,
don't know.
also it makes me more relaxed with you because
There you go.
before it was more formal and you were just more
And
less,
then
and
when was I ever formal? I take umbrage to that. I object. When was I
yeah,
ever
I was
formal for
I
heaven's
was
sake?
I was I was formal, and
Right, right.
now I realize that okay, that kind of a dispute we had, and this
Right,
just make things more
right,
relaxed,
right.
more
Dispute you
informal.
had. It was all you.
Yes.
I didn't have any.
Okay. 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 I'm talking about
I mean, I appreciate you including me, which is very nice. Thank you very much. I feel included, but in all honesty, I can't claim inclusion.
no, it was
So
me. I'm saying about myself
yes,
that I was, yes.
wow,
So now I feel more comfortable. I feel more
exactly,
relaxed. I can
exactly, and
share because it
it's a
takes a lot of time for me. Okay.
profound thing. When we feel bad about our mistakes, that's just ego. If we are actually honest, we can't actually say for sure that it's something to feel bad about. You don't know. Maybe you did it and the universe has got some plan. We can only say if I wasn't impeccable, if I deliberately did crap, all right, then I can feel bad. And that's a whole different story. Now, I can't ever see you crossing that line. Some people do, and that's when they start to sell their soul and they pay a massive price. You know the story of like somebody that goes and sells their soul to the devil because they want to get some benefit, right? That's the
Mhm.
story. When you deliberately, knowingly, in full consciousness cross that line, that really comes back to bite you and haunt you. Now, that's not what we're talking about here. We are talking about supposed mistakes done in unconsciousness. Now, through attunement, we get to understand that sometimes we get used and our mistakes are there for the benefit of somebody else. Because, for instance, you could say, Biela could come and say, you know what, Sil, when you expressed that thing to Beena about whatever it was, I can't even remember the details. She could come and say to me, you weren't all that diplomatic. You could have done it this way. You could have been more smooth. And, you could have taken into cognizance all of this. You could have been more aware of the relationship and the sensitivity and all this other stuff. All right. So, okay, I say, yes, that is so. I say, yeah, but at the same token, if I hadn't been unaware, if I had done it that way, you wouldn't have had your button pressed and it wouldn't have been this issue and this big thing. And you wouldn't have had that awareness of ego and perspective and making peace with our relationship and changing the nature of our relationship. So a supposed mistake has turned into this magnificent, fortuitous incident of learning and growth. Yes?
Yes.
So we have to have that trust to understand that sometimes so-called mistakes have power and they are massively valuable. All I can say is to Biela, I can say, yes, Biela, you are correct. I can improve and I will make that effort to do so in the future because I see the value of it. However, at the time, I was utterly impeccable. I was being the best according to what I could be at the time. And I was consciously being impeccable in what I was doing. All right. So, in the best of my awareness at the time, I was being impeccable and I was being so deliberately, it wasn't even advertently doing so. So, I can't, if it was something that, caused some stress or bother, well, that's not on me. I can't feel bad about it. I have to only say that all I can do is trust that my impeccability will yield a good result, which it did, right? because
Okay,
because
yes.
also Beena ended up being impeccable when it came to dealing with the issue. See, so impeccability plus impeccability gave us more, right?
Okay. Yes. But yes, still I will say that sometimes, as in some situations, yes, the capital D diplomacy is really good thing. Is really
Yes,
good
yes.
because
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
we need that. We need that to
oh
treat
absolutely,
people
oh
from coming
absolutely,
from different backgrounds.
right, oh
We need
absolutely,
that.
right. And I do make that effort to do so. In just at
Yes,
that
I
time,
can see that.
when I said that, I had no thought that this would be an issue for you. It took me completely by surprise.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
So, okay, I realized I need to be more aware and in afterthought. So I learn from it. I always learn. That's why I enjoy this
I'm
because I'm
learning.
always learning. But,
I'm learning. I'm
right,
still learning
exactly. But
because
I'm making the point about awareness and unawareness and impeccability, and that we
yes,
can only enjoy our impeccability and trust in our impeccability. Because if we're impeccable, it works out good in the end. That's just the way the universe works. That's why we like attunement. When we attune to the bigger picture, because attunement is attuning to the bigger picture, attunement is attuning to life, the universe, and everything. That's what attunement stands for. So when we are in attunement, we are attuned to the big picture. When we are attuned to the big picture, then impeccability is always good. It might not be so immediately, we might not see it, but we have to trust that in the longer term it will be, and to persist. That's why the theme of today is persistence, to not give up, to stick it out, to look further, to go deeper, to go further, to look beyond. Persistence,
yes,
right? Persistence is power.
yes.
Write that down.
It is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Because if in the beginning, in the first day, if I just feel that okay, I stuck at that chapter which was
Right,
be useless for
right,
me at that time, like what I'm doing, I'm not believing in that. I'm not really feeling that okay, I am a good person. I'm not feeling that.
right,
Sometimes I really do bad things,
right,
which I don't want to, but I do. So
right,
it was like kind of a useless thing, just practice and exercise to say that yes, I am a good person, I believe in that, I'm deliberately a good person and all that.
right,
But now it makes sense. If you don't have a trust in that, if you don't look at yourself in that perspective, you will not be able to look at your own ego and your awareness separately. You
correct,
will consider them as
correct.
an one thing, as one thing. Sometimes I'm saying for myself, sometimes we just caught up in that idea that awareness, that our ego is our awareness. Enlightenment,
Yes,
enlightenment. Okay,
yes,
so it is really bad, and I was not aware of my triggers, my ego's triggers. I
yeah,
was not aware of that. Why I feel triggered, why I was feeling so hyped up about that thing.
right.
So after that incident, I start this re-looking at that again things again and again and again, and then I realized, Veena, this is something nothing to do with you. Just let it go because it is all your ego. It is
Magical,
all your
magical, 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 magical. So
But all
I have three posts for you. The one
okay.
post is on the diamond and the facets and perspective, right?
Okay.
That's one.
Yeah.
The second post is on the scorpion and the frog.
Okay.
On, in other words, that the implications of ethics and morality, and if you are asked, that the whole story of you and your friend, in other words, right? And the implications of that. And then the third story is, third post is about persistence
Okay.
and not giving up, and by implication, what it implies when it comes to dealing with another in terms of the perception of their intent. In other words, if we are to have the type of relationship which is in its utmost, in its appropriate, in other words, a biala, a nobilia type, I call it nobilia living, right? If we are to have that kind of an interaction, on nobilia, when they interact, the aspirants and the new nobles, when they interact with each other, do they ever question the idea that the other's intent is anything else but utterly appropriate and impeccable and perfect?
No.
No, they might not apply that intent in the most ideal way, but the intent itself is unquestioned, that the intent is good, it's noble, it's pure, it's sober, it's the intent is, in other words, unquestioned for its inherent goodness, correct? Right.
Yes.
So if we are bent and put out of shape by somebody else that we know to have such intent, it's a matter of communication, perception, and understanding, not of intent itself, which means that there's some haphazardness to the communication, to the implication, to the understanding, and that is something that's very easily resolved. That just simply means you go, hey, you know what? I know your intent is perfect here, but what you said didn't come out right for me. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't compute. Let me get this from another angle, a different facet, so that I can kind of get and understand how you mean it to be good. Because I'm taking it to be not so good, but I know that's wrong, and I want to fix that. So we automatically assume, if we bothered or upset, that the fault lies with us, not with the person whose intent we know to be good. Now, it might turn out that they may say, you know what, at that moment I was kind of feeling really crappy, and I don't know, my hemorrhoids were giving me a hell or whatever crap may be, and I'm sorry, but yes, I was actually being unimpeccable and I was being crappy at the time, and I'm really sorry. I apologize. Oh, okay, all right, then matter resolved. Okay, but that's the point, though. You see, there's communication and it gets resolved, but we are starting from that point of view of assuming that it was impeccable regardless, even if it might not be, which is going to be very unusual for that to happen. But then we're also giving an opportunity to come at the person from that perspective of assuming they were impeccable. Now, since they are impeccable, they are then going to say what the deal was, right? They're going to rectify the matter. So that is really profound, and it's the core of nobilia living. It's not even an assumption of good intent. It is simply a fact. Once you are somebody who is in that logic, in other words, once like if somebody comes into the interactions at this kind of a level that we are, or this type of, it's just taken for granted that your intent is 100% always good. You cannot intend anything bad deliberately. That's it. It's a fact. It's not something that I have to believe. Simply a fact. So if you do something that's cockeyed, I'm not going to question your intent. I'm simply going to question your expression, your methodology, perhaps you were caught up in a bubble, immersion bubble, and all this. Okay, your perspective got distorted. You got overrode with your emotions. You took some drugs or something. You were temporarily crazy, whatever. But there's always some other reason. But I never ever can question your intent. Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Very
Uh,
powerful.
yes, it is powerful. It is powerful. And
Huge.
that Dubelia living, that hierarchy concept, I'm still a bit reluctant about saying yes. Okay,
You
I
mean
got it.
the no hierarchy concept?
Yes, the no
Yeah, yeah,
hierarchy concept.
correct, correct.
Yeah, because this is something I have to reconsider all my beliefs, my
Right. All right. So let me ask you, how can there possibly be a hierarchy between your intent and my intent? Which is better? Do I have?
No.
Is my intent any better than yours? I can only have a good intent, and I can't go more than good. That's it. End of story. Okay, maybe you could say nobility is going a little bit more than good, but all right. Either way, there's not a hierarchy to goodness. Goodness is good, and goodness is enough. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Whether
Uh,
you awareness is not hierarchy either. The fact that I'm so, in other words, I have more awareness than a baby. Does that make me a better person?
no.
No. So what's the point of this? It's just idiotic. I'm a lot more aware than a baby. I know a lot more stuff than a baby. A baby's a nincompoop and an idiot compared to me. But does it make me any better than the baby? No, it doesn't. It's idiotic.
Okay.
It's idiotic, this whole hierarchy thing. All we have is difference. It's like people trying to insist that, oh, what's the best color? It's an idiotic exercise. By if you were to actually succeed in your quest of saying what's the best color, by implication, when you do choose, let's say, all right, yellow is the best color. Now suddenly you've made all the other colors worse relative to yellow. You've lost out. Yes, you may have elevated yellow, but you've also de-elevated all of the rest. Oh, bugger it. Things I do when I am on my own with the camera. Be a jackass. I'm waiting for you to come back, Beena. Yes, yes. I was pulling faces into the camera while you were away.
No, your picture
All right.
was frozen, so I have
Yeah,
to
yeah.
resume.
Just the connection dropped. All right. So I was saying, if we succeed in elevating one color and saying, oh, this is the best color, I'm also de-elevating the rest of the colors. And now I got to say, well, that's the only one I can really enjoy because it's the best. The rest are, well, like kind of crap. You see what I mean? But it's an implication. So whenever we say something's a favorite, we say, well, I don't care for the other side. It's backwards. It's cockeyed logic. So this whole idea of hierarchy, it not, yes, it may elevate one thing, but it de-elevates everything else by comparison, and it's a cockeyed business, and it actually makes life less wonderful. So from the new nobility point of view, everything is fantastic, and they're all favorites. That's it. End of story. The hierarchy is idiotic. So we celebrate difference as opposed to putting it in hierarchy. Don't you celebrate all the colors?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, of course. Exactly. Exactly. Right. I mean, when you had crayons as a kid, right? They gave you your first set. Maybe you got like 12 crayons. Then they upgraded you and you got like 24, 36. I don't know. And you get the super box that has like 64 colors. And you went nuts and your mind exploded. Oh my God, 64 colors. And you went crazy. It was a
Yeah.
gift. You didn't say, oh, I don't care this one. This is crap. And you didn't throw out the ones that you didn't. No,
Never.
love them all. They were all magical. Right, exactly. So
Yes.
we celebrate difference. There's no such thing as hierarchy. It's not possible. I don't care how much it may seem that there is. No such thing. No such thing at all.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Now my laptop battery is almost finished, like 10%.
Well, it's
Uh,
the universe saying it's a good time to go sleep and go to bed. And you've got those 3 posts to make. And if you want to make a 4th one about celebrating difference, that would be cool too.
okay. Okay. And
Perfect.
first one was about perspective and multifaceted diamond.
Yes. Yes.
Second one
Yes.
is about remind me, please.
Oh, the second one was about the scorpion and about friends
Mhm.
who ask you things that cross a line. In other words, it's about implications. So
Okay.
the second one is about, hey, we got to be very careful. If we are being even asked to cross a line, that the line has already been crossed by somebody, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
you might have to decide whether you're crossing the line, but the fact of somebody asking you means they've already crossed that line.
Oh,
So
yes. Yes.
anything you do, there is only one answer really, because if you say yes, you're also crossing the line with them, and now you're in bed with a scorpion, you're dancing with the scorpion, you're crossing a river with the scorpion on your back, and that's no good, right? So it's dangerous, in other words. And then
Okay.
the
And the
the,
third one,
the third one was about, dang nabbit, I said it 2 minutes ago.
ego and awareness.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, the fourth one was celebrating difference, but the third one was
Yes.
um, uh, was it about? No, we didn't say ego and awareness specifically. It was a big point of understanding we come to. So I'm thinking of our conversation now. Um, what was the big point of awareness that we came to? Um, yeah. I guess it not ego and awareness, but that we are not ego. That ego and us is a separate thing, and that ego is a tool. Ego is
Okay.
something to be used, and that's very powerful to understand that we cannot identify with ego. And secondly, that it doesn't mean that we have to eliminate or crush ego. No, we have to use ego appropriately.
Okay.
Right. So
Okay.
that's very key. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I just
And
and by the way, just because you don't see Livia on camera, she's listening. She can't always
okay.
talk,
Say
but
hi.
she's here. Beena, well, I'm sure she heard you. She says hi. So brilliant,
Okay.
brilliant. So I'm just saying, Olivia's here. Yeah, she's
Okay.
always around. Yeah.
And about the thing, even if I'm not here, if I'm not communicating, I am doing this class
Yes,
like every day.
yes, yes.
I'm
It's
just
not. All right. So on that note, though, Beena, next time we get together, I want to do the next session in the
yes,
program
yes, in
where we just
proper.
to do the next one, right? Just to go over that again, and also at some point to also do the rest of the perspective shifting exercise.
Okay.
So actually,
Okay.
that comes first. That comes
First
first.
we will do
Right.
the perspective shifting,
Correct. That
and
has to come first. Correct. So finish that, and then we actually do one of the next session in the way of impeccability program. I am keen to have some continuity on that, to not leave it too long. Now, don't worry that we aren't finished with the first ones, the ones we've done yet. We're never going to be finished with them. It's an ever ongoing process. So we're never going to finish with them. And the connectivity, the open tendrils, they are going to connect to the ones that come later on. So in order to get more completeness on the early ones, we have to do the later ones. Then we see the connectivity, right? So we can't say,
right.
oh, well, I want to finish with the first. There's never a finish. The only way we can finish is to do all of them, and even then it's not finished. We are opening the door to infinity, to in more. So we have to just understand that. And we have to just persist and trust in persistence. That was the third one. It was actually about persistence. So actually
Yes.
you got 5 now.
Oh my God.
Right, right. That's good. That's good. That's good. It doesn't have to be long, but it was about the power of persistence. That was it.
Okay.
That was it. Good. Thank you. See, when I do a recap, then it all comes back again. So it's a good habit to be in. I always do that. Recap is the takeaway of the overall so that we know what it is. And that's my takeaway. That's what I do always, so that I can say what was valuable to me in this. So that's and all of that, what I said, all what you're making a post about, that's what's valuable to me. That's what I would normally go and make a post about. You're just going to do it for me. I'm getting
Okay.
lazy. I'm not lazy. I got other stuff to do. So, but it's
You
powerful. It's
always
very powerful.
made some really really
Right.
comprehensive post, because it
Right.
is like
Right.
having a complete session.
You, you,
It's
you
like
make you make very powerful posts. So the other thing we're going to do with the posts is, when you've written these, before you post them, just either put them in Messenger for me or in an email, however you want to send, and then I'll just go. We'll do some editing on it just to check the
yes,
editing, to get into that habit of editing, because we also want to get into the habit of being able to edit ourselves in real time.
okay,
Very powerful skill. For instance,
yes,
in that when your friend asked you that question, if your editor had been active in real time, it would have caught that. So, whoa, wait a second. Your editor would have said, implication here. Hang on a second, right? That's what was missing in that
yes,
conversation. Your editor wasn't there, right? So
yes.
editing is incredibly powerful, but not to substitute for our creative side and our enthusiastic side and our immersive side, but in addition.
Okay.
Actually, we're going to shift our ego to make our ego into the editor.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh, very exciting.
yes.
All right, Magical Beena.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Bye, Vivian.
You're a bean that's been planted.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you gotta put your video on every now and then, so at least once per session, so I can
Okay,
just see that you're still the same person.
I'm still the same person.
Well, more or less, I want to see how you're changing and growing, you see.
Okay,
So
okay,
I can remember what they look like. I don't actually remember what you look like. So before your battery dies, put it on for a second.
I can't do that. It is really dark. My whole family is sleeping. I
Ah,
can't do that
all right,
right now.
all right, all
And
right,
I'm in the lounge. If you remember that,
all
I'm
right.
not in my
All right.
room. I don't
All
have
right.
any room.
Well, if it's dark, all right. But next time, just even if it's for 2 seconds, just for I can have a quick,
I will do
just to
that. I
connect,
will do.
just
I
to
will.
refresh the image in my mind. I have a vague image now. Yeah. So
Okay. Oh my God. Okay. I will try to make sure that we will do it in more early timing so I can do that.
right,
I will
right.
try.
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. All right, all right. Bye, bye, Beena.
But,
Talk to you next time.
this was the first thing I make sure that you have to see me because I don't want to be an image of a funny
Yeah,
person.
yeah. Well, it's just it's vague. You know what I mean? I like I don't have an image that I'm talking to in my head, which I don't have to have it. I mean, I can talk to the voice, but it's nice to have that. And also just as a gauge,
Yeah.
because I do have some skill in being able to read people,
Okay.
so
Okay.
it does help a lot to see, and I see where you at. There's a lot that goes in. It's a long story to explain it all. But
I understand.
there's a lot of it. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't something that actually made a real difference. So that's a big deal.
No, actually, but no, but my situations are different. Otherwise,
Yeah, no, I
I
realize that, but I don't care. You know, I don't care what's around you. I'm not going to look at the rest. That makes no difference to me. You know, you could be sitting in the street for all I care. It makes really no difference to me. It's totally irrelevant. It's just to see you for a second. You know,
okay,
and and
okay.
and, and I look beyond what hair you've got or hairstyle or what clothing. None of that is of any issue to me. So
I
I
understand that.
I never looked at people that way all my life. I never saw that. So. You know, I
I
remember times
completely
where I would
understand.
say, "Wow, look at that! Like a really beautiful person." And people say, "What are you talking about?" You know, they couldn't see the beauty that I saw past the facade. You know? So that was
Yeah,
always my
I
thing. You know,
completely understand that.
I look at people differently. I don't look at the
I
surface.
understand that.
Yeah, yeah.
I
So
understand.
anyway, next time, brilliant. You gotta go sleep. You gotta go sleep.
You know what? I actually turned off my phone like for
Mm.
10 days. I had
Good,
no phone because
good, good,
I was in a really
good,
chaotic
good,
situation,
good,
and
good. Oh,
but I just turned it off. I
good.
was not using.
Let me ask you some housekeeping. You know, because in my mind, I always like when things are open. I kind of check back to see if they've been resolved. So I know you said your boss is on vacation, but you didn't say when he's coming back. So
He will come after 12 at least because
okay, okay. So
birds of
it's sometime in the future still. All right. But other than that, your work stuff is more or less resolved, at least temporarily. Like you're on
no,
vacation kind of now.
no, nothing actually because they were hiring me for projects and now he's not here, so they didn't hire me for the recent project they are doing, the current project they are doing.
I got you. All right.
Yeah.
So you're just kind of like waiting for him to come back. That's where you're at with that now. All right. All
Yes.
right. Cool. Cool. Okay. That's all I wanted to know. She gives me a bit of resolution, and now I know. All right. It's waiting, and I'm
Yes.
resolved. Resolved doesn't mean there's a solution. It means I just know what's happening, and everything that can be done has been done, and therefore I'm resolved. Right.
Okay. I
Very
understand
easy.
that.
Very easy. So yeah, coming to resolution, it's that way. So very powerful.
Okay, and thank you, Olivia. Olivia, I'm still working on that. The doctor is saying that, Beena, first you have to take the medicine first because I will not send anyone but any medicine without looking at that person, without
Yeah.
having
Yeah.
a
Yeah. Yeah.
conversation with him.
Yeah.
So
No.
I am
No.
taking
Fair
the
enough.
medicine for myself, and then I will try to make him because she was asking me a lot of questions.
Yeah, yeah. You have to get into detail with Olivia. She did get some things to try, but speak to it in detail with Olivia. She
Yeah,
enjoys chatting to you as well. You know when you contact her directly. So
yeah,
please do that. Catch
yeah.
up and fill her in there. She enjoys chatting to you. It's very important.
Okay, thank you.
Brilliant. All right. Good
Bye.
night, Bina, or good morning. Sleep well. Sleep
Yeah,
well.
good morning.
Bye bye, Bina. Bye bye. Bye bye. End meeting for all.